I want to go back. He wants to go back. I want to go back to the farm. Go back far away from home, with a milk pail on my arm. I miss the rooster, the one that used to wake me up at 4 a.m. down on the farm.
I'm Scott Boehm. They called me the old farmer. I had planned to build a base for my shaper that I got from Grizzly. That is actually a bigger version of what a routing table would be for those who aren't familiar with it. So I went over to Harbor Freight and picked up a set of wheels, and I was going to build a base. But then they dropped the price on the factory version base from Grizzly, and so I went ahead and bought one. And I had an extra set of wheels around, so I built a base for my miter saw, or chop saw as some people call it. I just used scrap lumber that I had around. In building this, I have to be aware of angles because the legs aren't straight. I have two angles to deal with. An angle on the end and a little bit of an inset where the leg comes out because they're using folded metal for the legs. They're at an angle, so there's two separate angles to deal with. And I tried it with the circular saw and it wasn't working too well. So I said, what the heck? Pulled out an old hand miter saw. I went ahead and sawed it by hand. I must admit that this miter saw that I'm using came with a house, so it was not the sharpest saw in the world. And I'm checking my angles to make sure that I'm doing it right. I know that I have a little bit of flexibility. It isn't an absolute like I'm doing metal to metal or steel to steel. I'm doing the other side, cutting the angle. And it fits almost pretty good. I just need to adjust the one end. I purposely made it long, cut off a little bit too much of the inset. Had to go back and adjust for it. It's been decades since I've done woodworking, and I'm starting to get back into it. But one thing I noticed, I've lost all my muscle memory on doing this stuff. I remember it intellectually, but I have to get it back into my muscle. That's why I'm not doing batch cuts and things like that. I'm doing one thing at a time, getting it done, adjusting it to make sure it fits well, and then move on to the next piece. I know it takes longer. I don't have confidence in just doing batch cuts. It'll come back. I know it will. I'm getting better all the time. So I hammer it in place, and I have to drill the holes in the leg for the screws, and I'm just using clamps to hold everything in place. I do have to admit, I've gotten spoiled with the torch styles or star style screw heads. They just work better than Phillips. I also like the Roberts where there's a square insert inside. When I buy things, I like them to make my life easier or better or both. And so if I go to a vendor or a store and they don't have what I want, I won't buy it. So all those stores out there that might be listening, if all you have is Phillips or standard screws, I'm not going to buy any from you. Simple as that. It's an easier, less frustrating way of doing things, and I've gotten spoiled with the new types of heads on wood screws. The garage got a little bit warmer, so I took my jacket off and I'm working on putting the braces across the top. I eventually want to put a shelf up there. I won't do it now, but this way I don't have to worry about having a heavy-duty bottom to the shelf. This is going to be a pretty strong base. I took extra care in measuring and placing the wheels, and after I got them done, they were sitting true to one another, front and back and side to side. They weren't offset. I used bar clamps to hold the wheels in place, or tried to, I should say, and it didn't work as I put the screws in. I took extra care, and all the wheels line up. One set of wheels are just standard wheels. They don't swivel or anything. The back wheels swivel, and they also lock. I can move it wherever I want and then go through and lock the wheels. Now, I must admit, it's a little bit awkward locking and unlocking the wheels by the way that I have it set, but it can be done. I looked at how the paint faded on the top of the stand there and realized that isn't the way it would set on there with the bolts. So I had to flip it around. To use a terrible pun, our good Chinese friend Wing Nut helped me out holding the miter saw in place. I used a screwdriver to put enough torque on it so that they won't come undone. This is the base that I got from Grizzly to go on the shaper. Now the shaper weighs just over 200 pounds. It's going to carry a lot of weight, although it's rated up to 600 pounds. So it's only about 1/3, but it's a heavy-duty base. I have blocks to hold up the shaper so I can slide the unit underneath. Now I have to be honest. I was doing this in the way that's best for the camera, and I'm 90 degrees out of phase from the way that I wanted to. So I had to flip it around 90 degrees. So with everything in place, it's time to remove the blocks it's holding up the shaper. Other than being very heavy, awkward that way, the wheels are doing an excellent job. It's a good base, did a good job. And when it went on sale for a fair price, then I bought it, and I'm glad I did. And this is the homemade base I made, and it works better because the miter saw is so much lighter than the shaper. Well, this is the old farmer, Scott Bame. Be well.
Thank you so much for your support.
Down on the farm,